Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning.
Oh, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rebel News Daily live stream. I'm your host, Sheila Gunn Reid, my co-pilot. Normally it's Jesus. Today it's Adam Soos, based in Calgary. Hey, Adam, how's it going?
It's going wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm great. Yeah. We're connected today using Zoom, and it's a little bit strange for me to look at it on the screen there, but I hope it looks good to everybody at home. First of all, let's get some of the formalities out of the way. First of all, happy Hanukkah to all of our Jewish friends out there, and blessed Advent, Adam.
Blessed Advent. Our tree up. We're all set. We're ready.
Yep. The tree is out. My many nativity scenes are out. My littlest one actually collects nativity scenes, so there's always one or two just like lurking around the house, but the other 11 or so have been put out over the last 24 hours. Before we get started, though, we should talk about something that I haven't actually talked about, and I feel like I should, but I'm not really good at shameless self-promotion. The Rebel News Viewers' Choice Awards. I think the website URL is viewerschoiceawards.ca. AD, right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, yep. Perfect. Viewerschoiceawards.ca. Maybe we can throw the website up. So you can go there and vote for whomever you think is the best Rebel News journalist. And that can be for a bunch of different reasons. Are they, for example, really good at access to information? Are they really great at covering the weekly freedom protests like Adam is? Do you like their camera presence? Are they funny? Do they cover stories that you like? Is their beat similar to yours? So there's, oh, that was nice, AD. It looks like you're going to vote for me. That was awesome. So you can go on there, and that list there it changes every time. So it's not like, oh, you go to the Rebel News Viewers Choice Award and Alexa's always at the top, so she gets picked first. It's randomized, so you can go there and you can vote for your favorite Rebel News journalist, and then Ezra awards us that award in a big ceremony. That means a lot to me. Yes. Because I like to win. So if you want to vote for me, Rebel as the Rebel Viewers Choice, it's viewerschoiceawards.ca. But we've got a ton of people on that list this year. A ton.
It's growing. It's incredible. It's all those other outlets crazy. Are shrinking, and we're growing. It's almost like people want the truth. Almost.
It's almost like if you give them the product that they are seeking, they will continue to support you for doing that. And Justin Trudeau is sort of preventing that market correction that the mainstream media needs.
It's the opposite of communism. There's a word for it.
Right, capitalism. It's the problem with the media bailout, though, is that it's sort of it prevents the market correction the mainstream media so desperately needs, right? Mm-hmm. They're failing because they create a product that nobody wants, because you can go to the internet and fact check their lies in real time. Mm-hmm. So they create this inaccurate product, this highly biased product, which, I mean, some people want that. I mean, and never think for a second that I'm not biased. I just don't lie about it. I'm conservative, and everybody who views me knows that. But then they fail, so Justin Trudeau gives them more money to stop them from going broke. So then they continue to produce the stuff that nobody wants, except Justin Trudeau, I guess. Yeah. And so it's just this, like, the mainstream media is just circling the drain, and I don't think this can go on forever.
Soviet grain stocks, like they say it's full, but then eventually someone's actually going to look, and it's starting to happen. They get their billions, they're having to lay people off. We get no money from the government, and here we are.
And we're growing. And you know what? We threaten to hire people all the time from the mainstream media.
I know.
You know what I really like is when there's a big, massive layoff, like at Global or wherever. And Ezra will tweet that we're hiring, and please come try to work for us, because I do know there are good people in those companies that need rescuing, right?
I have heard from people who ideologically, like, we'll have people from the mainstream outlets reach out to us and give us tips if it's something they believe needs to be covered, actually. And then I've had people reach out who are with major networks currently saying they just can't do it anymore ideologically, and they want to come on over.
We're the life raft. I like being the life raft. Now, before we get too far into the show, too, we should tell everybody what we're doing. I know Andrew, Mr. Producer Andrew, he likes to run a tight ship and he wants us to stay sort of on schedule, and that's tough. Andrew, you got your work cut out for you. But before we get too far into the show, we should tell everybody what we're doing. So this is the Rebel News Daily live stream, used to just be on Friday, just hosted by Ezra. But then the pandemic struck, we were all sort of grounded. And so were so many of you at home. You were all sort of sent home to work from home because you had to stay home to stay safe, or whatever the public health officer of the day said. And so this used to be a great way for us to catch up with the news of the day, interact with each other, because so many of us ended up working remotely. But also, it was a great way for our viewers at home to support the work that we do completely willingly without a Justin Trudeau bailout, which we would never take anyway. But once Joe Biden got elected, YouTube didn't really have to pretend anymore to be like the public square, the video public square. They went full censorship and they demonetized a bunch of conservative platforms. We had been previously not ad safe, but then they took away our ability to accept super chats from those of you at home. But we have not abandoned YouTube altogether. Some of it is spite, and some of it is because it's a great place for people to find us, and then we can migrate you over to a platform that doesn't actually care about your politics. So we start off the show streaming on YouTube, but there will come a time when we have to, during the show here, not abandon you, because there are 1.5 million YouTube subscribers. Some of us are there because you like us, and some of you are hate watching us, but it's all the same to me. And I will invite you to evacuate YouTube and move over to Rumble, Odyssey, and Super U. And those are 3 platforms that give you different ways that you can support us financially. But more importantly, I think for you as a viewer, they don't really care about our politics. They don't care about your politics. They are just a place with the free and liberal exchange of ideas. So because we might get into talking about COVID or questioning the advice of a public health officer because they are our new deities, we will have to sort of sign off of YouTube and move over exclusively to those platforms. And if you're already over there watching us, good for you for being an early adopter of a good idea. So I think that is the technical stuff out of the way. Big news today. The CEO of another censorship platform is stepping down. Jack Dorsey is stepping down, and the new CEO is Parag Agrawal. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot from that name going forward, but I don't have the precise AD, maybe you can throw it up on the screen, although it's a little difficult. I don't have the resignation letter in front of me from Jack Dorsey. Maybe you have it, Adam.
Yeah, so I read it earlier. So just roughly, yeah, there it is right now. Generally, it's a number of people who have been involved with Jack from the get-go coming on board. In the letter, he largely speaks about there being merits to the founder of an organization being the CEO, but that he knows these people. They've been involved for a long time. They come from different backgrounds. Parag, I believe, is an engineer, so he has a very sort of technical outlook as to the running of the company. The reason Jack didn't stay on as a chair or something like that is he felt he'd be kind of stepping on toes, and his presence would sort of distract and undermine the other people's capacity. That's what he says anyways. I think that there are clearly some underlying things. I don't know how familiar you are with Blue Sky and some of Jack's plans.
No.
Yeah, so effectively, I think what's happening here is when there was that big 5-hour tech summit, and it was Facebook and Twitter and all these people, and basically Jack was the only one who answered questions. It was pretty apparent that he knew that the way forward, big tech being the agent for censorship, despite him doing it repeatedly, I think he realized it wasn't going to work. So he wants to move and is working on something. It's called Blue Sky. I don't know if that's a working title or what, but it would be something analogous to where there would be handles, but it would be more like an email network where people can subscribe within the communication network. So what would happen then is that big tech could effectively provide the groundwork, but they wouldn't be responsible for censorship because it would be kind of a P2P, like people to people sharing network. So effectively, because he kind of recognized that big tech deciding, and I mean, this is not publicly stated, but it seems self-evident, big tech being in charge of drawing the line of what's appropriate and what isn't, beyond the obvious sort of illegal stuff, but ideologically, despite him doing it, I think it's something that he did with some apprehension, at least. So it seems that he's probably going to be focusing on that. Ironically, Jack Dorsey of Twitter focusing on more of a freedom-oriented network and leaving Twitter behind. So, but yeah, big news. Certainly, he's been there for a long time, and he's been synonymous with Twitter. The other question remains, what happens with Twitter itself? Are these new people involved going to go down that rabbit hole of ultra progressivism and censorship? Will they take a step back and stand by the position that big tech shouldn't censor? Who knows? That's the question that everyone is asking presently.
And they keep saying that big tech shouldn't censor, but then they just do it. And, and like, these are the people in charge of big tech. So, you know, it's fine to say that, but then execute it upon the people. That's another thing. You know, the thing about Jack Dorsey, to look at him, if he wasn't working for Twitter, he looks unemployable. Like, he looks completely like a homeless person. Like, he's
like the cartoon caricature of like a CEO that goes into the desert for like a self remedying.
Yeah, he's like a young Howard Hughes. Like, you know, and but I think to tip our hat for where Twitter is probably going to go, our friend Yankee, Twitter guru Yankee, actually, he dug up this little tweet from the new Twitter CEO, and he says, when did he say this? So back in 2010, he says, if they are not going to make a distinction between Muslims and extremists, then why should I distinguish between white people and racists? What do you mean they? I'm pretty sure we all the time make distinctions between radical Islam and normal Muslims. Like, you can actually criticize the radical political aspects of that ideology very easily and separate it from our Muslim friends and neighbors. We do it all the time.
Raheel does it amazingly frequently.
Yeah,
in her
Raheel,
videos.
Yeah, exactly. Raheel, who's Muslim and is the chair of our advisory board, frequently speaks out against. I mean, she's one of the people who draws the distinctions. This is a problem with this religion. It's got nothing to do with me. And more importantly, I should speak out about it, I think, is generally Raheel's position on this. I mean, you and I are both Catholic. I don't feel responsible for the things that the IRA did. Like those are a bunch of crazy people. They don't speak for me or my religion. So I don't know who he's talking about when he says they, but he seems okay to just lump all white people in with the regular old racists.
And the wild thing about this is he's probably rebutting like the 0.5% of the population that says they're all the same and is probably racist. But he is the mainstream progressive. So like literally probably the majority of progressives think all white people are racist, even the white ones.
That's critical race theory in a nutshell.
Yeah, exactly. But he's taking like the most extreme position of what you might call conservatism. Racism is not conservatism, it's the opposite. But the right wing caricature of and he's now the CEO of Twitter, in charge of Twitter, and his position is that all whites are racist. That's an equally offensive and ridiculous position. But he holds it. He's it's wild. Yeah.
And the thing is, if a conservative had tweeted like the other version of this, and again, I will make the distinction because I wouldn't call them conservative because I think racism is absolutely not conservative because I think we are of an ideology that judges people on merit and their actions and not their demographic group and where they fit in on the census. But if someone else had tweeted the flip side version of that, it's interesting because Twitter would probably censor them, but it's fine when he did it.
Yeah, I was going to say he probably has not heard those conversations because they're any sort of nuanced conversation acknowledging that there are extremist Muslims out there, not that they're the majority, but would be blocked on Twitter probably. So that's probably why he hasn't seen those conversations.
What a strange man.
Maybe on Blue Sky.
Maybe, maybe. Moving from critical race theory over to critical gender theory. Although I'm not really sure. We were talking in the meeting that we have to prep for this. This stuff makes me rethink women's suffrage. Like when I see this and I'm like, maybe they shouldn't have given us the vote because this doesn't make sense. Boosting gender parity, Ontario Liberals create women-only candidate ridings. So it says the Ontario Liberal Party has moved to only allow women to run for the nomination in more than 20 of its ridings in an effort to improve gender equity within its caucus. The party provided a list of 22 ridings to Global News where it has made the rule change, including the Greater Toronto Area, Durham region, and elsewhere in Southern Ontario. So hang on here. Does this mean that if you're a man and you submit your nomination as a Ontario Liberal, to run in this riding, they will deny your nomination completely based on your gender?
Yes.
But this is what they call equality these days.
Yeah. And, this has been happening in politics behind the scenes. We've seen people time and time again. There's a male candidate, let's say a white male candidate, heaven forbid. They've been working in the riding forever. They've done everything right. They've helped, for example, Jason Kenney win a leadership vote, but they don't meet a certain demographic. And then they get punted out despite having done all that. It was really interesting when Justin Trudeau announced, and I don't remember the numbers, but I did the math. When Justin Trudeau announced the gender cabinet, like the balanced gender cabinet, which Stephen Harper effectively had, but he coincidentally had it by hiring the best people for his cabinet. I think he was one shy of gender equality. I think at one point there may have been even one female more than male. That doesn't matter. But I did the math, and based on the amount of female versus male members of parliament, you were like, basically, if you were a female member of parliament, you're automatically ushered into a cabinet position because there's so many more males. So if you're a male, you did everything right. You were the top performing person. You dominated in your constituency. You did everything right. You basically you had it was like a seventh of the chance of becoming a cabinet minister based on your gender. And it's staggering that this would be adopted publicly. We know this happens behind the scenes, but to actually actively have a policy that forbids people from participating, it's shocking. It's unbelievable.
This is how we get more Chrystia Freelands. And I don't think that she does anything to advance women in politics when you look at her. And it's like, you were the finance minister of the country and your parents had to co-sign your mortgage.
And the other thing that this is it's sexist. And I mean, it's sexist against women. It's sexist against men in an obvious way, but in an underlying way, it's implying that there's no possible way that a woman could actually compete with a man. Therefore, for a woman to be elected, we have to make it a woman-only riding. It categorically undermines what women are capable of today. I happen to believe that despite distinctions between men and women are capable of the same things, generally, barring physical strength or childbirth. Sure. There are certainly some exceptions, but I don't think that a male has a genetic advantage in becoming a member of parliament, for example, or in running, particularly because the population's split, so you're not going to gain favoritism. So there's no biological inherent advantage. But this just implies, for some reason, that women couldn't compete in politics with men. I happen to disagree. I think they can.
Yeah, this is a perfect example of the bigotry of low expectations, right? That us women we can't make it in politics on our hard work, our brains. So we need a government policy to do it for us, or at least a party policy to do it for us. And as a woman who's in charge of a lot of stuff every day, that's pretty insulting to me that I would need a policy prescribed to artificially inflate my merit. It feels gross to me.
Yeah.
But again, I look at the world through, let's put the best person in the role instead of you check the right demographics box. You're the right person for the job. Well, again, that's how you end up with Justin Trudeau's government right there.
And speaking of demographics, I forget the name of the professor. He's from U of Ottawa Technical something. He's a political science professor in the article. And he goes on, the stuff he says is absolutely staggering. He says, in a democracy, the elected representatives should look like the people they're representing effectively. That's extremely tribal thinking. And he goes on furthermore to say that he thinks this doesn't go far enough. He suggests that there should actually be race-based and other group-based limitations as well. So effectively, like, this area can only have a female Black Muslim elected official. This area can only have an indigenous. Like, it's absolutely crazy. There's no end. There we go.
Yeah, look at this.
Someone replied to this saying you could have someone incredibly. It's just wild. McNeil, there's the name.
Yeah, Tim McNeil,
yeah.
Political science professor at Ontario Tech University in Oshawa, says he thinks the move is a positive change, but doesn't go far enough. But then he also says, he also reveals the problems in it. Mm-hmm. And he says he would prefer a more holistic approach with riding set aside, not just for women, but other underrepresented groups. Yeah, let's shoehorn everybody into there. You could have a very qualified male Indigenous candidate who comes from a low socioeconomic background. He is precluded from running, and then you end up with a white woman of privilege who gets the position. Oh, this is the problem with these. The totem pole of socioeconomic privilege and status is that who's at the top, who's at the bottom, who's in the middle, and who wins in the social justice hand of poker. Like, and what's the royal flush?
If they implement all their policies and their dreams come to fruition, then by default of their policies succeeding, white males will be the most marginalized by far, and then you'll have to give them all the positions back because they will have been institutionally marginalized by the progressive politics. So it's a perpetual self-consuming snake.
You know who else suggested something this stupid, and it should come as a no shock to you when I tell you? I think it was Kim Campbell. She suggested that Canada's first female prime minister, if you want to give her that. I mean, it was for just a couple of trimesters that she was in charge, maybe just one. She suggested that in the Senate, I think it is, maybe it was the Senate. I lose track of all of her kooky ideas, but like a female senator and a male senator for each region or however, so that there was gender equity and balance.
That sounds too much like a mom and dad. That's too old fashioned. We don't need to stick to those traditional nuclear family structures. We have to move past that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was gender parity electoral model. Thank you for bringing that up. I probably got it 50% right. But yeah, it was, who hires her to be a keynote speaker? One man and one woman from each riding. So it's not even the Senate, it's the riding. So even if you choose two dudes, they're going to send a guy and a girl if you elect, right? Because this sort of disenfranchises the will of the voter to vote for the best people for the job. And then you send one man and one woman. But yeah, they accidentally make the point that for balanced decision-making, within a riding, if you look at the riding as your family, you do kind of need a guy and a girl there, a mom and a dad. It's funny how they accidentally make those points all the time.
Yeah, it's like it's like Burkean family units. Maybe they're libertarians, not liberals. Who knows? Very, very weird. And then, I mean, beyond this, if you take it to the next step, their definitions of gender are so fluid. Why are we adhering to such? At one moment gender isn't a thing and it's fluid and it's on a spectrum, but then when it comes to politics, we need it to be females only, or someone who identifies as a female. Maybe we haven't sorted that out, and then the rabbit hole continues ever downwards.
Now, speaking of ever downwards rabbit holes, Waterloo Region High Schools are taking the doors off washrooms for safety reasons, which they are using that phrase, but I don't think they know what it means. No. Because I think making the washroom like more open, like seems counterintuitive to safety. Like I think like a locked door, you lock your door for safety, right? You put doors on things to prevent people from coming in. That's like why you put doors on stuff, but they're taking them off for safety. A Cambridge, Ontario parent says she's worried about the privacy implications of a decision to remove the exterior doors of washrooms at some Waterloo Region District secondary schools. The doors at some schools were removed due to public health concerns and congregating. Really? The board said in an email it didn't elaborate on those specific concerns, nor would it say how many schools have taken this step. The controversial decision, however, sparked outrage among parents who have taken to social media to vent their frustration about the lack of privacy. Oh, I wouldn't just be on social media complaining. Yeah. Many of their parents echoed those of Sackville, New Brunswick, when a school removed doors this month to curb vaping in the washrooms. Why take the doors off? Why not just have like a supervisor cut a lap through a washroom once in a while? Yeah. But reverse the decision after backlash in the community. Kids have been smoking in the bathroom since bathrooms were invented in high schools. This is just a thing you got to deal. Yeah, there's songs about it. This is just something you got to deal with. Yeah. But and then I like how they blame it on COVID. They're like, oh, yeah, public health concerns around congregating. They're sitting in a classroom all day. Yeah. They're eating together. They're riding the school bus together. They can go to the bathroom together with the door closed behind them. Like, this is crazy. I don't know why they do this stuff.
And
well,
the thing that blew my mind too is like they had to remove mirrors because like you could see into the toilets from the mirror angles. So they've actually taken mirrors off the walls in the bathroom. Like I just wonder the process. Like there's principals probably making like $150,000 a year, if not more, executive staff, teachers, councils, and like they started working on removing the doors, and then they're like, oh, well, you can see the mirrors, and they weren't like, this is stupid, we shouldn't do this. They said, let's remove the mirrors as well. I can just picture like the custodian being like the least, probably potentially the person,
the normalist person at the school,
and yet
right?
He's like, this is the stupidest thing, he or she, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like the common sense perspective. That picture is just so dystopic of the mirror being taken down. The kids can't even like check their hair or their teeth, not that it matters because they're wearing a mask, in a mirror, or fix themselves up in the bathroom because they wanted to take the doors off.
Oh my goodness.
You know what, part of this is it is totally part of the like overall shift. Like, I mean, why don't they just put cameras in there if they're going to be this creepy? We can't trust kids alone in these people are almost 18.
Yeah.
High school. They can't be trusted to go to the bathroom alone. We need to supervise them. Elementary schools, they've got those like intersecting doors where you sneak in so you can't see anybody, but you can like hear if a kid's crying for help or something. This is high school. In a year, some of these people are going to be working jobs in the real world.
They can vote. Like they can vote the next year. They're driving to school.
Yeah. You know who the no door crowd is voting for.
Oh, and you know, like this is part of the problem of the last 20 months where privacy is not a thing that we have anymore. No. We're expected to just divulge whether or not we've had certain medical procedures. And if we haven't had certain medical procedures, then we have to tell people why. And so we have to divulge that portion of our medical history or our religious beliefs. We have to make a personal testimony every time we try to go to a restaurant or use some sort of public facility. Privacy doesn't exist anymore. And this is just the physical manifestation of it, that, you know, like we're taking the doors off bathrooms for public health and because the kids are in there congregating. Well, and then they say vaping. Well, they're just going to go in the stalls then and vape.
Yeah. We'll get rid of the stalls.
And so what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Get rid of the stall.
And almost every time there's some like totalitarian style overtake. It's almost every time in history. It's for some sort of social reform or for safety or some health measure. They don't just come in and I mean, barring the rare cases like sometimes in Africa or parts of South America where there's a military coup. But generally, when someone gradually trends towards authoritarianism, they use some sort of sensible, well, we're just doing this because of this safety measure. We're doing this because of that. In a matter of time, there's going to be no walls, no borders, no fences, and no doors on bathroom stalls at the rate we're going.
It's funny how they don't think like, you know what, maybe we should just have a supervisor go through the bathrooms like just once or so randomly on lunch break or whatever. No, they're like, there's no like, okay, well, there's like something we could do like, here in front of the problem. No, they're just like, you know what, let's put the pedal to the metal and take the doors off. Like they never look at the solution, the easy solution that protects everybody's rights, sort of somewhere in between. Governments do this all the time too. It's like, maybe you could have ramped up hospital capacity over the last 20 months. Nope, we're going to take away your civil liberties and make you all show vaccine passports. Like they never deal with the like little thing that they could have done to fix the problem. They are just like, let's overreact. That's all anybody does these days. And
it's just so sort of like emblematic and symptomatic in a way of the progressivism. Like it's I mean, being a person of faith, I think that we get some help from the big guy upstairs, and help. They show their cards. Like you can tell the direction they're heading. Every once in a while, they'll just do something so ridiculous that it sets off flags and wakes people up. So it's the doors coming off. Yet another, which sounds like a metaphor, but it's literal. Is just the latest in the long sign of troubling. Red flags alerting us to the pending loom. But there's this pendulum swing, and people see all the ridiculousness and get sick of it. Kids naturally want to rebel against their parents. So when the parents are ultra like this, the kids will swing the other way. And hopefully things will tick back our way a little bit more towards sensibility.
I think that's why they say like the Zoomers are the most conservative generation since World War II. And I think it's because they've had just about enough of this, because like they are the ones that are like paying the price for the language police. And they're the ones that don't get the normal childhood because they have to play the pronoun name game before they start everything. They're the ones that can't have a washroom door and live in a bubble and all this sort of stuff. They're the ones that are going to grow up without civil liberties. And so, that'll make you pretty conservative pretty fast when you're like, I'm a kid, so I'm already rebellious. I don't like people telling me what to do or how to talk. And then you have not just your parents doing it, but all of society doing it to you. That's how you make conservatives in the pressure cooker of life.
Indeed.
I think we're just about time. Oh, I think we did it, Adam. We made it halfway through the show without having to get off of YouTube, but we're headed into the danger zone, friends. So if you are watching us on YouTube, would you mind just migrating over to one of those other platforms, Rumble, Odyssey, or Super U, because we're about to talk about things that are newsworthy, are real, but are not YouTube friendly. And, before we go, yes, if you're still here after I've already kicked you off of YouTube, but before we go, let's talk about the store real quick, because I'm wearing a shirt from the store. Adam's wearing a shirt from the store, and it's the Black Friday sale. So we've got up to 50% off on certain things, 10% discount. Checkout code is Black Friday, and free shipping. So if you have one of our journalist promo codes, hang on to that, because you can only use it once. So keep that and just hang on to that for later. But if you want to get some Christmas shopping done, it's the first day of Advent or second day of Advent. So, Christmas is quickly approaching. So if there's something that you would like in our store, now's the time to get it. And if you are in British Columbia, friends, maybe consider ordering early rather than later because of transportation and delivery issues there. But there's my shirt. So anyways, that's my shirt. Free thanks for the free trial of communism, but I'd like to cancel. That's my shirt today. I was on a phone call with a lawyer before I jumped onto the live stream, and he's like, "Where'd you get that shirt? I love that shirt." I'm like, I'll get you a shirt, don't worry. That's at rebelnewsstore.com. Yep, small is my size. Anyways, rebelnewsstore.com, free shipping, 10% off with Black Friday. And we've got a 50% off collection there too. So that's really great. I want Ezra's head for my office.
Me too. I kind of want it on the wall behind me here. And one thing about these shirts, I have to say, guys, if you're picky and you like I know very often the shirts from places, they're those super boxy ones. These ones are not. They're the nice cut. So they're like, you're not going to get one of those boxy, terrible shirts. They fit really well. They wash really well. I'm so picky with shirts. And I've got so many of these shirts. I absolutely love them. So if you're kind kind of that if you're long and lean or kind of V-shaped, they fit you well. You're not going to have a big box draping over you. So
I got to tell you, I had this discussion with my daughter yesterday because we're both like wide shoulders and we're built like inverted V's. We're both athletic, and the shirts fit great because normally I swim in something across the middle even in a lady shirt, just to get it over, like to fit here. It's just enormous here. But the shirts are fantastic. They fit well. They're soft. They're not that like a really overly thick kind of cheap t-shirt material. They're not like that at all. And wash them dozens of times. They don't fade and the logos don't wash off. The screen printing is really great. So anyways, that's rebelnewsstore.com for your Black Friday shopping.
And Hanukkah, Christmas, all that good stuff. So many reasons to shop.
Okay, so I think now maybe AD, let's see, evacuate the censorship platform of YouTube. We're all clear. Thank you.